Be ready. 15 seconds. Mr. Vice Chairman, Sir, I rise to support the motion of thanks for the President's address. I am not in the habit of attacking anybody, but in his address to the joint session of Parliament, the President, with great eloquence and lucidity, has put all the achievements of government. Also, he has thrown sufficient light on the future policy and programs of this government. There is hardly any field which he has not touched upon in the address. So, it is not necessary for me to elaborate on general issues which have already been included in the President's address because it is a catalogue of the achievements of this government. It is the duty of the opposition to pinpoint some loopholes, no role to play in democracy. So we go here and there, otherwise, they should not be agitated over what they say because a time will come when we have to take vote on this and people will throw them out at the time of voting. Therefore, I do not have any intention to confront what they say and what they point out against the government. Since it is a general discussion, members belonging to different parts of the country use the opportunity to bring out the problems pertaining to their respective areas. As you know, sir, from the northeastern region, we are very few, and since I represent that region, I want to elaborate on certain issues which confront this region because the other major issues in this country, like the problems of Punjab, Sri Lanka, and agitation in UP, have overshadowed our problems. Therefore, I would like to highlight the specific problems which we are facing in the northeastern region. Unless this region is developed, unless the people of this region feel contented, the security of the country in that region is not safe. Therefore, I would like to draw the attention of the House and the members to the need to pay special attention to the very delicate and difficult problems which we face in that region. I am happy to say that the recent election results in that region, be it Nagaland or Tripura, clearly shows that the people of that region are for emotional integration, political integration, and that they want to participate with the rest of the country in molding the destiny of the nation as an equal partner. Sir, I want to point out some of the missing links which the President may have advertently or inadvertently omitted some of the things which he should have included in the President's address. For example, the Prime Minister has declared that he has got an open mind for solution of all the problems of underground Nagas within the parameters of the Constitution of India. I would like to draw the attention of this House to the fact that the insurgency still continues in Nagaland, Manipur, even in Assam and Tripura, and you cannot just brush aside this kind of insurgency. It has been there since independence. Before independence, we tribals asserted our identity. We do not like to be swamped, or we do not want to be submerged by the majority community, and therefore we asserted our identity, our right to survive as a people. But it was construed as anti-national. But it was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru who recognized this aspiration of the tribal people. Yes, small we are. It was he who had given us the political equality with the rest of the country. So the tribal people shall never, never forget the Nehru family. Today I am saying this because it was only because of Pandit Nehru that I could be here today as member of parliament. Now I would like to mention Nagaland was a disturbed area for 20 years. Even now we have the NSCN and the federal group of underground people. When I was Chief Minister with the permission of late Mrs. Indira Gandhi and the present Prime Minister, I initiated to contact them and I have succeeded to a large extent. I told them that whether it is the federal group, they are Nagas, they are Indian citizens. If we kill each other, it amounts to fratricide, it is civil war. How can you entertain civil war in your own state, among your own people, among your own brothers? So it is always good to bring them together, bring them to the talking table so that a solution can be worked out. The Prime Minister during his last visit to Nagaland has also said that the door is open for talks within the framework of the Constitution of India. But at the same time, I read the paper that there will be a joint operation of the Burmese army and the Indian army. On the one side, you are saying you join us. On the other side, again, you want to use dandas. Is it peaceful approach? I would request the Prime Minister to see whether this is a pragmatic approach. For more than 3 decades, India has figured on the technology control radar screens of the advanced nations. Happily, attempts of technology denial have not been without benefits because they have spurred our scientists to further strengthen our national capability. This has reinforced our belief in the maxim that strength respects strength. In this context, I must compliment our nuclear scientists. Their achievements at Pokhran have filled the entire Indian scientific community with self-confidence. The second important task before our scientific establishment is that it must get refocused on problem solving, especially meeting the felt needs of our industry, agriculture, and services. For example, our farm productions needs to grow at least by 5% a year. This is necessary if we have to reach the goal of creating a hunger-free society by doubling our food production in the next 10 years. Our agriculture scientists have many commendable successes to their credit, but they need to redouble their efforts to integrate our Kisan community in the generation, dissemination and application of knowledge in agricultural sciences. Similarly, our food scientists need to develop cost effective technologies to tackle the problem of enormous waste of fruits, vegetables, and food grains.